Welcome to Mindcast. I'm Francis, and today we're diving deep into what might just be the most significant week in British tech history. While our usual co-host, Will, is enjoying some well-deserved time off, I couldn't wait to unpack this absolutely massive story with you. We're talking about over £27 billion in AI investment commitments flooding into the UK in a single week. That's not a typo. £27 billion from Alphabet and Microsoft alone, all timed perfectly with a U.S. presidential state visit and a new UK-US tech prosperity deal.
But here's what's fascinating and what we're going to deconstruct today. These headline numbers tell two completely different strategic stories. We've got Alphabet pledging £5 billion over 2 years, and Microsoft going all in with $30 billion over 4 years. That's the largest financial commitment Microsoft has ever made in the UK. Ever. And when you dig into the details, you realize we're witnessing two tech titans playing entirely different games on the same British chessboard.
Before we dive into the numbers, let me paint the broader picture of why this week matters so much. The UK has been wrestling with a fundamental question. How do you build AI superpower capabilities without the massive domestic tech companies that the US and China have? While America has its hyperscalers and China has its state-directed approach, the UK's path has been less clear. This week provides the answer. Strategic partnerships at unprecedented scale, transforming the UK into the global nexus where American capital, British research excellence, and European market access converge.
So let's start with the tale of two strategies. Alphabet's approach is what I'm calling the research supremacy play. They're betting big on intellectual leadership. A significant chunk of their $5 billion is flowing directly to Google DeepMind in London. You know, the Nobel laureate Sir Demis Hassabis-led lab that's pushing the absolute boundaries of AI science. Their new billion-dollar data center in Waltham Cross, Hertfordshire, that's essentially the infrastructure backbone supporting their core mission of creating the next generation of AI breakthroughs on UK soil. Let's dig deeper into what these strategic differences actually mean in practice. Alphabet's research supremacy play isn't just about funding more PhDs, though they are doing that. It's about creating a research-to-deployment pipeline that keeps the UK at the absolute cutting edge of AI science. When DeepMind creates the next breakthrough in protein folding, quantum algorithms, or reasoning systems, that intellectual property is being developed on British soil. The economic multiplier effect of this approach is profound. Every patent, every scientific paper, every novel algorithm becomes a foundation for dozens of UK startups and spin-offs. Microsoft, on the other hand, is pursuing what can only be described as infrastructural dominance, and they're being remarkably transparent about it. $15 billion in capital expenditure. That's pure infrastructure build-out. Another $15 billion in operational expenditure to embed their platforms deep into the UK market. This isn't just building data centers. This is Microsoft constructing the digital railways and power stations of the AI era, then funding their own teams to run the entire show. Microsoft's infrastructural dominance strategy, on the other hand, is about creating what economists call network effects. The more businesses, developers, and institutions that build on Microsoft's AI platforms, the more valuable those platforms become for everyone. This isn't just about cloud computing. It's about embedding Microsoft's AI services so deeply into UK business operations that they become irreplaceable infrastructure. Think about it. When every law firm uses Microsoft AI for document review, every hospital uses it for medical imaging, every bank uses it for fraud detection, Microsoft doesn't just have customers. They have an entire economy dependent on their platforms.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, the location strategy. Both companies are concentrating these massive investments in the Essex-Hertfordshire corridor, and this isn't coincidence. This region represents what I call the Goldilocks zone for hyperscale data infrastructure. It's close enough to London for client proximity, but far enough out for lower costs and land availability. You've got about 5,270 businesses in telecoms and digital tech in Essex alone, employing over 20,000 people. There's established infrastructure like the Cow Data Campus in Harlow, proving the region can handle world-class digital facilities.
But here's the real kicker, and this addresses a critical question about energy infrastructure. There's been speculation that these investments were attracted by the proposed Bradwell B nuclear power station in Essex. Well, I can tell you definitively, that's not the story. Bradwell B is mired in uncertainty, geopolitical complications with Chinese partners and local opposition. The project doesn't even have a confirmed timeline that aligns with these investment windows.
Now, to understand why these investments are so strategically significant, we need to look at the global context. The European Union has been struggling with its own AI ambitions. Their billion-euro programs sound impressive until you compare them to the £27 billion landing in Britain this week. Germany's attempts to create European AI champions have largely stalled. France's AI initiatives, while notable, lack the scale and commercial viability we're seeing here. Meanwhile, China's AI development is increasingly isolated from Western markets due to trade restrictions and technology export controls.
This creates what I call the UK advantage, a unique combination of factors that no other single country can match. First, research heritage. From Alan Turing to Geoffrey Hinton to current Nobel laureates like Demis Hassabis, the UK has consistently produced the foundational thinkers in AI. Second, regulatory sophistication. The UK's approach to AI governance strikes the balance between innovation enablement and responsible oversight that American companies desperately need as they expand globally. Third, and perhaps most importantly, linguistic and cultural compatibility with the massive U.S. market, while maintaining privileged access to European customers and talent.
The real energy story is the Tilbury Battery Energy Storage System, the UK's largest BESS facility. Operational right now with 300 megawatts capacity and 600 megawatt hours of storage. This facility provides exactly what AI data centers desperately need: instantaneous grid stability to handle the massive fluctuating power draws of thousands of GPUs running AI workloads. When you're talking about training large language models or running inference at scale, power stability isn't optional, it's absolutely critical. The Tilbury BESS delivers that stability today, not someday. Now let's talk about the partner ecosystem, because this is where things get really sophisticated. UK-based Nscale emerges as the crucial local enabler. They're developing the physical campuses, including Microsoft's flagship supercomputer site in Lawton, Essex. But Nscale isn't just building one facility, they're investing £2 billion in UK data centers over 3 years. The Lawton campus alone will support initially 50 megawatts of AI capacity, scalable to 90 megawatts, all using advanced liquid cooling for those heat-generating GPU deployments. But here's a crucial question that's been on my mind. What does this mean for the UK's domestic tech ecosystem, particularly startups and scale-ups? On one hand, this infrastructure creates unprecedented opportunities. UK AI startups will have access to computational resources that were previously available only to the biggest Silicon Valley companies. A fintech startup in London can now access the same GPU clusters that power OpenAI's latest models. A biotech company in Cambridge can run protein folding simulations that would have required supercomputer access just 2 years ago. But there's also a risk of what economists call crowding out. When Alphabet and Microsoft can offer AI services at massive scale with virtually unlimited resources, how do UK startups compete? The key insight here is that the most successful British AI companies won't try to compete directly with the hyperscalers. They'll specialize in vertical applications that require deep domain expertise. Think of companies like Darktrace in cybersecurity or DeepMind's spin-offs focusing on specific scientific applications. The massive infrastructure provides the platform, but the real value comes from understanding how to apply these tools to solve specific problems that only local companies truly understand.
And then there's NVIDIA, the tech titan providing the actual computational heart. We're talking about more than 23,000 of NVIDIA's most advanced AI chips, powering Microsoft's supercomputer. But NVIDIA's commitment goes way beyond that single project. In partnership with Nscale, CoreWeave, and others, NVIDIA plans to deploy up to 120,000 advanced GPUs across the UK. That represents up to £11 billion in UK AI infrastructure investment from NVIDIA alone. But here's where the story takes a fascinating strategic turn: the emergence of Stargate UK. This is a separate initiative from the Microsoft commercial supercomputer, and it's absolutely crucial to understanding the UK's broader AI strategy. Stargate UK is a partnership between Nscale, OpenAI, and NVIDIA, specifically designed for what they call sovereign workloads. This is about creating domestic infrastructure for sensitive AI applications: defense, national security, healthcare, critical financial services, where the data never leaves UK borders.
This reveals a sophisticated dual-track national strategy. Track 1, Microsoft's commercial engine providing businesses access to world-class AI through Azure and other platforms. Track 2, Stargate UK, building a national security asset, ensuring the UK government and critical sectors can leverage cutting-edge AI models without compromising data sovereignty. It's brilliant strategic thinking, commercial capabilities and sovereign capabilities developing in parallel, both powered by the same underlying infrastructure partnerships.
Now, let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in these infrastructure discussions: the privacy and security implications. When we're talking about processing sensitive UK data through American-owned infrastructure, we're entering complex territory around data sovereignty and national security. This is where the Stargate UK initiative becomes absolutely critical. It's not just about having sovereign computational capacity. It's about ensuring that the UK can leverage cutting-edge AI without compromising on data protection standards that are among the strictest in the world.
Consider the implications for sectors like healthcare and finance. NHS patient data processed through AI for diagnostic purposes, or the Bank of England using AI for financial stability monitoring. These use cases require absolute guarantees that the data never leaves UK jurisdiction and is processed according to UK legal frameworks. The dual-track infrastructure approach addresses this directly. Commercial workloads can leverage the massive scale and efficiency of global platforms, while sensitive workloads run on sovereign infrastructure with UK-specific governance and oversight. It's a sophisticated solution to a complex challenge that most other countries haven't even begun to address. Now, let's talk about what this actually means for the UK economy. Microsoft projects their investment will support thousands of highly skilled jobs. Alphabet estimates 8,250 jobs annually within the wider business ecosystem. The Nscale Loughton campus alone will generate 500 construction jobs and 250 permanent operational roles. But the bigger picture is transformational. One Microsoft commissioned report estimates AI could add up to £550 billion to UK GDP by 2035.
But, and this is crucial, realizing this potential depends on navigating some significant challenges. First, the long-term energy challenge. The Tilbury BESS solves immediate grid stability. But the sheer energy consumption of nationwide AI infrastructure will require massive expansion of clean, reliable power generation. Both companies are already taking proactive steps. Alphabet's partnership with Shell for clean energy portfolios, their power purchase agreement for Scotland's Moray West offshore wind farm. They're not waiting for government solutions. They're building their own energy security. Second, the human capital imperative. The most advanced infrastructure is worthless without skilled people to leverage it. Google reports training over 1 million people in the UK over the past decade. Microsoft has committed to training an additional 1 million people specifically for the AI economy. The University of Essex, through its School of Computer Science and Electronic Engineering, provides vital local talent pipelines. But sustaining and expanding this requires coordinated national education and training initiatives.
But let's be realistic about the challenges ahead, because they're substantial. Beyond the energy and skills issues I mentioned, there's the technical challenge of cooling. These advanced GPU clusters generate enormous amounts of heat. We're talking about managing thermal loads equivalent to small power plants. The liquid cooling systems being deployed at Loughton and other facilities represent cutting-edge engineering, but scaling this across hundreds of data centers will require innovations in cooling technology that don't exist yet. Then there's the semiconductor supply chain challenge. Even with these massive orders, global chip production capacity remains constrained.
Third, and perhaps most strategically important, is managing dependency on U.S. hyperscalers for critical national infrastructure. While Stargate UK provides sovereign capability, the vast majority of the commercial AI economy will run on platforms controlled from Redmond and Mountain View. The UK's long-term success depends on leveraging this infrastructure to foster a competitive ecosystem of homegrown AI companies. As Nscale's CEO puts it, the goal must be ensuring the UK becomes an AI maker, not a taker. Looking at the 10-year horizon, success will be measured not just by the infrastructure deployed, but by the economic ecosystems that grow around it. We should expect to see the emergence of what I call AI industrial clusters, concentrations of companies, research institutions, and support services all focused on specific AI applications. The life sciences cluster around Cambridge, the fintech ecosystem in London, and the creative industries in Bristol. These existing strengths will be supercharged by access to world-class AI infrastructure. The question is whether the UK can create entirely new clusters in areas like autonomous systems, advanced manufacturing, or quantum AI hybrid applications.
Of course, we also need to acknowledge the potential risks and failure modes. The biggest risk isn't technical, it's political and economic. If trade tensions between the US and UK escalate, or if there's a significant shift in American foreign policy, these investments could become geopolitical bargaining chips. There's also the risk of what economists call resource curse, when a sudden influx of capital and resources actually undermines long-term economic development. If the UK becomes too dependent on these American platforms without building sufficient domestic capabilities, it could find itself in a vulnerable position despite all this infrastructure investment.
What we're witnessing is fundamentally symbiotic competition. Alphabet's foundational research and novel AI models will create enormous demand for the computational power Microsoft is building. Microsoft's infrastructure provides the platform for deploying the breakthroughs emerging from Google DeepMind. The UK benefits from both sides, world-leading AI intellectual property creation and unprecedented physical capacity to deploy it across the economy.
Looking forward, this represents a watershed moment for UK technology. These investments provide the foundational infrastructure for the UK's AI superpower ambitions. But the trajectory depends on policy choices made today. The government's planning reform initiatives, electricity capacity expansion, and supportive regulatory environment were explicitly cited by both companies as enabling factors. The strategic timing with the U.S. presidential state visit and the tech prosperity deal clearly illustrates high-level political alignment. So, what does this all mean for the UK's AI superpower ambitions? We're looking at the construction of digital infrastructure on a scale not seen since the railway boom of the 19th century. The Essex-Hertfordshire corridor is becoming Britain's Silicon Valley equivalent for AI infrastructure. The dual-track strategy of commercial and sovereign capabilities shows sophisticated strategic thinking. The partner ecosystem strongly indicates that success requires collaboration between American tech giants, British infrastructure developers, and chip manufacturers.
But perhaps most importantly, this week proves that in the global competition for AI supremacy, geography still matters. The UK's combination of research excellence, regulatory sophistication, proximity to European markets, and now world-class infrastructure makes it uniquely positioned. The investments from Alphabet and Microsoft aren't just financial commitments. They're strategic bets that the UK can become the global hub where AI research, development, and deployment converge at unprecedented scale.
So let me offer some specific predictions for what we'll see over the next 2 to 3 years. First, I expect the Essex-Hertfordshire corridor to become the most densely concentrated AI infrastructure region outside of Silicon Valley, possibly exceeding it in computational capacity per square mile. Second, we'll see the emergence of UK-based AI service companies that can compete globally precisely because they have access to this infrastructure. Third, other countries will attempt to replicate this model, but they'll struggle because they lack the unique combination of factors that made the UK attractive in the first place.
But perhaps the most significant long-term implication is what this means for the global AI governance conversation. The UK is positioning itself as the bridge between American innovation and European values, developing AI systems with American scale and efficiency, but European privacy protections and ethical frameworks. If this model succeeds, it could become the template for how democratic societies integrate advanced AI into their economies without compromising their values. That's potentially more valuable than all the computational infrastructure combined, because it creates a model that countries worldwide could adopt and adapt. That's our deep dive into the titans of tech on the Thames Estuary. £27 billion in commitments, 2 fundamentally different but complementary strategies, and a roadmap for British AI supremacy that's built on immediate operational reality rather than speculative future promises. Will returns for the next episode, and I'm sure he'll have plenty to add to this analysis. Until then, keep watching this space, because if this week taught us anything, it's that the AI revolution is being built right here, right now, in the UK. Thanks for listening to Mindcast.